Buon pomeriggio, good afternoon. In 2010 I offered my friend Yanis Kostoulas to organize together shipping and the law, we arrived to a point, then he declined because he already had the Mare Forum in May, that we should have discussed the program. And he said, to discuss the program, I'm an expert of conference, we need a bottle of good wine. So now we had lunch, we had some wine, and I think also our program will take advantage of this. I thank also Giuseppe Bottiglieri, which was in doubt up to the last minutes, to have joined the panel, and we await to have Mariella later on today. I would like to thank Varsila for the delicious lunch, and Varsila is also the sponsor of this afternoon session. We call this the transactional session because it has a little bit to do more with finance, charter parties, shipbuilding contracts, and other nasty things that I don't want to mention. It's the responsibility of the speaker to speak about. Anyway, it reflects this very difficult time that the shipping is experiencing. We called it shipping through hard times. I think shipping is obviously part of the global economy, and probably it's the part that in normal circumstances suffers more of the crisis, of the recessions period. And this is one of these times. We don't only have an excess of supply of vessels, which was probably due to the book of order, which was built up during the booming time, but we also have a decrease, or at least a decrease in the growth of the demand of transportation. I can see that there is a sort of blindness in difficult times like this. We could have a depression of the global economy that could last easily for many years, even 5 years or more. I think the government are obsessed by things that are totally unrealistic, like inflation, like the deficit. Okay, the deficit are there, but these are problems that could be addressed and fixed at the right time. I think now the main problem is to have the economy to run again. And I think if we don't have the global economy to exit from this period of recession, also the shipping port, or the shipping industry, or a large part of the shipping industry, will be severely damaged. Anyway, I'm not an economist. I think I'm just a man of common sense, but I suspect that some of the other people who are in this room may share some of these thoughts. Having said this, I also thank Clive Aston, who is a well-known arbitrator of the London Maritime Arbitrator Association, to co-chair this session with me. I'm very happy because I've been a friend of Clive for I think now over almost 30 years. So it's great to be with him and with so many other friends, old and new friends like you. I would like, therefore, to ask Clive to also introduce this session, and to also introduce the first speaker of this session, who will entertain us on a very important subject during these times. There are not many new orders, but there is still a lot of orders, shipbuilding orders in the pipeline, who is William Cecil of Curtis Davis and Guard. But Clive will introduce him and will say also some words to the floor.
Thank you very much, Francesco. When this conference was first held 2 years ago, everybody was asked by Francesco whether he should hold the conference again and when he should hold it. And we all said, well, yes, it's a good idea, but don't do it every year because you won't get people attend every year. Well, last year and this year have shown the resilience of this market in Naples in difficult times. And it's also shown the persistence of Francesco in producing 2 successful conferences and now a 3rd. So I'd like to congratulate him on achieving that. Having said that, when we were in the bar last night talking about today's timetable, I said to Francesco, we've got to make sure people stick to the timetable. And Francesco said, no, let's just make it relaxed. Let's let people have, as long as they want to do their paper, people will be satisfied. So I think my task is to make sure that our walk to the restaurant tonight is not a midnight stroll, but to make sure that we can get there in daytime. Now, this morning we heard more about the physical attacks, if you like, on ship owners and shipping. This afternoon we're looking more at the financial attacks that ship owners are facing in the current market, both in the chartering market and with the tightening of finances. And there are some quite interesting papers this afternoon that will go through the financing possibilities, new ideas for financing, and also the practical aspects of chartering. So let's try and keep to what I said of leaving here in daylight and press on. Now, as an arbitrator in London, I have probably had more cases this year that have dealt with Chinese new building cancellations than any type of other case. And there is no doubt that for the next 18 months it is going to continue to be an extremely hot topic. So it's perfectly appropriate that we should start with William Cecil's talk on the do's and don'ts of cancelling shipbuilding contracts. How? So that?
Perhaps touching the screen. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm going to talk briefly on the do's and don'ts of shipbuilding contracts. That's a big topic, and I haven't got long to cover it. And in fact, every time I speak to Francesco, he allows me less time to speak. So I'm going to be as brief as I can. So first of all, just to give you background, obviously, before the credit crunch, no or very few buyers had any interest in their cancellation rights. In fact, they do almost anything to ensure that the ship was delivered. But obviously things changed dramatically with the credit crunch, and many buyers then found that they were locked into new building contracts at a very high price, and after delivery, the earning capacity of the ship was much less than they originally contemplated. In many circumstances, there was nothing that the buyer could do about that from a legal point of view. He simply had to try and negotiate with the shipyard to see if he could obtain some relief. But there are rights in a shipbuilding contract or circumstances where the buyer can cancel. And after the credit crunch, those suddenly became very important rights indeed for the buyer. So just looking a quick run through on the usual cancellation rights. So normally B, throughout the slides, B is buyer, SY shipyard. So the buyer can cancel if the vessel fails to meet specific performance guarantees or if there is excessive delay in delivery. Today I'm going to concentrate on cancellation for excessive delay because by now most of the contracts that we are seeing that are running into disputes have obviously been running for quite some time, and generally the ships are very late. So we're finding that it's cancellation for delay, which is the bigger topic at the moment. So the usual provisions for cancelling for delay is that the shipyard has a 30-day grace period. Then there are liquidated damages, which generally run on a daily and increasing rate. And then after a period of whatever the contract says, but generally 210 days, then the buyer has the right to cancel. Now, if the buyer gets that cancellation correct, and he is found to have lawfully been entitled to cancel, then the consequences are that he gets a refund of the pre-delivery installments of the contract price, which he's paid to the shipyard. And particularly now, that's the area that the buyer is focusing on the most. But he's also entitled to interest from the date he paid the installments up until the date of repayment. And he's also entitled to damages for his other losses, which up until quite recently was generally considered that if you went down the contractual cancellation route, that you couldn't also claim damages for your other losses. But in the 2009 case, which is Stocknir, Gdynia and Gearbulk, the court held that was not the case. So that's what happens if the buyer gets it right. If he gets it wrong, he will be in repudiatory breach. The shipyard doesn't have to perform the contract and can claim damages for its losses from the buyer, which in the current market is starting point for that will be the difference between the contract price and the price that the shipyard can get on the open market, which obviously can be very significant. Also, and also very importantly, the refund guarantee has no effect. So to the extent that the buyer is ultimately owed anything by the shipyard, he will have no security for that. So the consequences of getting it wrong are very serious for the buyer. And in an ideal world, buyers would obtain a declaration from arbitrators like Clive that they are entitled to cancel before they exercise that right. But in the real world, often that is simply not possible because the issues behind questions of delay, etc., can be very complex, and it's simply not possible to obtain a hearing on that before the refund guarantee expires, which is generally what provides a sort of a back step to the timing. And I'll talk about that in a minute. So just looking at circumstances when the cancelling date is extended, as I've said, the cancelling date is by reference to the contractual delivery date. So if the contractual delivery date is pushed back, that also pushes back the cancelling date. So things that commonly push back the delivery date, force majeure events, other permissible delay as provided for in the contract, and variations to the work by the buyer. And one obvious but very important point to bear in mind is that even if it is inevitable that the ship will not be delivered by the cancelling date, you cannot exercise your contractual cancelling right before that right has arisen. So that cannot be anticipated. And to work out when the cancelling date arises often requires a very detailed review of what happened in the project. For example, if there are issues about permissible delay and whether it pushed back the cancelling date or variations that have caused delay to the yard, those can be very complex issues and it will take quite a long time to investigate, and you probably won't get a black and white answer at the end of it. So those are circumstances that push back the cancelling date. There are also circumstances where the cancelling date or the cancelling right disappears altogether. And that was confirmed to apply to shipbuilding contracts in a recent case called the Adyard case. And the prevention principle is an English construction law principle. And essentially, it means that the buyer can't insist on strict compliance of the contract if the buyer has prevented the shipyard from performing its obligations. And that prevention can be any act that delays or prevents performance. It doesn't have to be a breach of contract by the buyer. And if the shipyard has been prevented from performing the contract, then the consequences of that is that time is what's called at large, which means that the shipyard has to complete the vessel within a reasonable time. But more importantly, for today's purposes, the right to cancel will have been lost. And the consequences of that were summed up by the judge in the Adyard case, where he said a trivial variation may lead to the loss of the right to liquidated damages for a long period of culpable delay, and in this case, loss of the right to rescind as well. So that is a very significant potential risk. So before exercising or considering the exercising of the right to cancel, it is important to establish whether the cancelling date has been delayed for any reason, and also whether there are any grounds for saying that the shipyard has been prevented from performing and there's no remedy within the contract for extending time, because that's the other requirement for the prevention principle to apply. Secondly, very quickly, waiver. Once the right to cancel has arrived, potentially it could be relevant before, but it becomes key when the right to cancel has arrived that the buyer does nothing that might amount to a waiver of his right. And he can waive his right as a matter of English law by undue delay or by taking any action which is inconsistent with his right to cancel. So the key for the buyer is he's got to reserve his right to cancel as soon as that right arises. Any subsequent correspondence, he must be very careful that he doesn't say or do anything that might be construed as a waiver. And he must cancel as soon as possible, take into account a safety margin for possible extensions of time. So then quickly, the refund guarantee. Under the general arrangement, if the buyer cancels and is entitled to cancel, he can then claim under the refund guarantee. If for any reason the refund guarantee does not answer, then effectively the buyer will have an unsecured risk against the shipyard. And apart from the credit risk, particularly in view of the financial state of a lot of the shipyards at the moment, he also may have difficulties of enforcement in the jurisdiction of the shipyard. So very quickly, points to check, expiry date of the refund guarantee. That may sound obvious, but we've seen a few examples where, in fact, the refund guarantee has expired before the right to cancel can be exercised. Simply an error in the way that the two documents were drafted, but that's of no benefit to the buyer at all. There are also different types of guarantee. and it's important to establish whether it's what's known as a see-to-it guarantee or an on-demand guarantee, and that's primarily because of the rule in Holmes and Brunskill, which is if it's a traditional see-to-it guarantee, a material variation to the shipbuilding contract where you have not got the buyer's consent will invalidate the guarantee. So that's very important. So very quickly, I'm running over, so I'm going to run through. There are you've got to be sure when you serve your cancellation note that you comply with any contractual requirements, and also that you take account of the assignments of the shipbuilding contract. Normally, the benefit of the shipbuilding contract will have been assigned by the buyer to its financing bank, and it's important to establish who can exercise the termination right, and whether, if it's the buyer, you still need the bank's written consent, etc. But it's very important to establish exactly where the rights lie under the financing. So, to conclude, cancelling is a very serious and irreversible contractual step. And the consequences for the buyer of getting it wrong are very serious indeed. So if there's one message I would leave you with, it's be prepared before you jump. This has been a very quick run through what's quite a complex subject, but there is a copy of my talk in more detailed form, which is on our Knowledge Centre on our website. So if you go to cdg.co.uk as of tomorrow and you log on, you'll find a more detailed paper. Thank you very much.
So, thank you very much, William. I would like to ask, we have many owners here, perhaps to Giuseppe Bottiglieri, who has been engaged in quite large shipbuilding exercises. If he went sometime close to cancelling and from the owner's perspective, what is also the type of advice which is needed in circumstances like this?
Thank you very much, Francesco, Laura. Congratulations for the audience. I understood it's very important, very interesting topics. Looking into these shipbuilding contracts, I personally have built 21 ships in my life, all in Italy, in Denmark, in Korea, Japan, China. And I have to say that the topic that we are discussing now about cancellation is very, very important. Today the situation is, better than me, that is in very big crisis and in very, very difficult time. And in this moment, the contract, the shipbuilding contract is on the desk of all lawyers, ship owners and shipbuilders to study some excuse to try to escape from the obligations. But maybe it's very hard. The ship owners cannot escape. I don't think the all shipbuilding contracts, unless there is some very particular case. But also when there is delay, the construction of the clauses for delay is very complicated when you see that they can recover some time lost during the new building period. Therefore, it's very hard, even if they go over the cancellation. Therefore, the actual situation that is putting the ship owners mainly with the yards, the best, in my opinion, the best solution is always to try to find an amicable way and a settlement in case or you change new building or try to put the ship idle and to try to obtain some other things. The truth is that we have not to order any more new buildings. To stop, and the lesson is very important today. This lesson in all the shipping industry that is looking at which level we are so low today in the market will give a clear indication that is the time, don't make any order. And the lesson is going ahead in this way, well, because more ships are going for demolition, no ships has been ordered, very few, and maybe only some interest for some ro-ro ships or LNG or LPG, but all the others are completely died. And this is good because when 2 years ago I personally attended in China at a conference organized by Tradewinds. In that conference I make a very strong relation to the government, Chinese government, saying, look, now is the time to move. And it was this in 2009, not last week. And the first yard that has converted their new building into demolition, say green scrap, and also into ship repairs rather than shipbuilding, was New Yangtze, Cosco Dalian, Guangzhou shipyard. They already converted since 2010. And therefore, many of them, they understood. But now the situation is going ahead, is moving, many excuses returning on what is the meaning of the shipbuilding. But today the concept of, also for the art, they will look in what they change now. For instance, on the contracts, it's new versions coming. New versions, mainly strong restriction in favor of the ship owners. Now is the time of the ship owners. Ship owners, they go to negotiate with the yards. They have a good chance to obtain whatever they like in the ship building conditions. It's completely different. What we are looking today and what we are looking in your report, Mr. William, is that something coming from a very strong period, say 2008, 2009, 2007. Today is completely different. If you go to negotiate, they open all the doors, they are open to any discussion, and on the conditions, the ship owners can do whatever they like. But of course, the time is not so good, and it is not recommended, in any case, to all community of ship owners to make new orders, because they go against their interest, even if with the eco vessels. It's very, very, it's a choice that is not going in their favor in the future. Eco ships are not recommended, because it's not a matter of the eco ship. Maybe the eco vessel is something interesting at today fuel prices, but you don't know tomorrow what will be the price. Maybe less, maybe more, depends by the world economy. But it's not this. The problem is the number of ships in the market. You have eco vessels, but you still market very low. And then at the point of the starting point is not the eco ship with the eco consumptions. The importance is the number of the ships in the market. And if there is an eco ship and you want to time charter out for long period, the benefit will be entirely in favor of the charterers. And they will not pay much more just because you have an eco vessels. To get the benefits of an eco vessels, you need to put the ship on the spot market. You do this for new building for so long, for all the life, otherwise you will not take never an advantage. Now I am going just brief. Thank you very much, Francesco, that you made a very good, right choice. I want to support you also in the future if there is some other meeting. Say, for instance, Mare Forum, where I participated strongly in the past, now are 9 years already that we have this forum in Sorrento. Next year will be in Rome. And in Rome in May, why not to organize also something for your, maybe we do 2 days rather than 1, and then we mix the organization, and next year anyway will be in Rome. Thanks to Confitarma also is our chairman is last year, and then we prefer to go back again in Rome. Anyway, thank you very much indeed, Francesco, and to all the audience. I have to leave now because we have other appointments, and it's a very nice pleasure to participate at this forum, very important for the people attending. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Giuseppe. You're always very sweet. Actually, we wanted to do also with Yannis something together, and I'm sure that perhaps one day, quite soon, we will make it. I learned a lot from Yannis and your Forum. You know, I participated not only in Italy but in many as a speaker, panelist, or guest, sometimes generously hosted by. And I think we are all part of the same community, and that's very nice. And I think in the afternoon, probably Mariella will take over from you, and we'll discuss also about the tanker, the product tanker market. Thank you. I was observing, I would like to say hello to the president of the Young Italian Ship Owners, Valeria Novella. I don't know when Giuseppe said something, if you were nodding or you were in disagreement. Would you like to say something?
Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry for the late, Mr. Francesco, I was on the train. Thank you for this invitation. I'm happy to be here this year. And about what Mr. Giuseppe Bottiglieri said, I completely agree with him regarding the numbers of the ships in the world. Of course, there are a lot of ships, too many ships around the world. The demand is lower than the offer, and this is the problem. Regarding the eco ships, I have some doubts regarding what you said, Mr. Giuseppe, because I think that we have to look at the future. Even if we are living a big crisis, economical, financial, political crisis, we have to do something new for the future. The future is what? The future is a reduction of the emissions and of the costs of the bunker fuel. And we are taking the delivery of a new ship in the next 10 days. We are proud of this investment we are doing now in this difficult moment. We are proud because even if she is not an eco ship at all, she has some new design in the engine, principal engine, and so she's closer to be an eco ship. And I had some meetings with our charters regarding the charter of this ship, and we have obtained something more related to the market because she is quite an eco ship. So they are believing now that if you have an eco ship, if you present on the market an eco ship, you have to obtain something more in the market. We all know that the levels are too much low for our needs. We have problems to cover our costs. Everybody knows this. But with new design, with a reduction of the consumption, and so a reduction of not only the emissions, but the prices for the consumptions, the charters are going to recognize to you something more related to to the rate. It was just this passage to discuss with you, nothing more, because I completely agree that we have a lot of ships, too many ships, but I believe that we have to we try to invest in something new, to be ready in the future to restart again with something different from the traditional design. Sorry.
Can I just...
I
explain?
appreciate that Mrs. Novella stays to you as Al Gore stays to George Bush in terms of environmental... As a joke, obviously. Please go ahead.
No, please. Valeria, I know that your father, you take delivery recently of product tankers. And this new building, okay, it's very useful to have new buildings with new projects, new possibility to have more efficient vessels that are product tankers, for instance. Apart of the fact that product tankers today are getting the best freight rates in the market comparing with all other typologies. Say an example, they are running $16,000 on the route continent to USA. And if you stay Mediterranean, we are around $10,000. But anyway, apart of this situation, I want to say that eco ships, even if on the papers they are giving a more efficient consumption, in terms of consumption, the situation is this, that the new engines are completely different prospect. They are light engines, they are completely automatic, and the experience of our crew is not enough. Looking into what is the system is extremely complicated. And the power of an engine is directly connected with the consumption. You need the power, this is the consumption. It's for sure. This is the main philosophy. Now, if you go on new type, you need skilled people, very professional, and very prepared to manage such a vessel. Otherwise, they have many problems that the speed reduce and so on. First. Secondly, you have to be prepared to invest in this moment, looking at the entire evolution of the fleet. Third, you are putting a ship in the market, and if you time charter the vessel to the charterers, they are getting a benefit because they know the consumption, and they say, okay, I pay this, but this is always not enough with what they are getting. Because if the ship save 4 tons per day, they have to pay you, for instance, $3,000 a day more. And they will not pay this amount. They will take half in their pocket, half maybe they give you, but if you go on a longer period basis, they never do this. They say, we have other ships, it's only if you go on the spot market, but if you buy a new building and you go on the spot market, maybe no any ship owner is ready to do like this. This is why, Valeria, is not, I do not condemn the philosophy of eco-vessel, because it's possible. I appreciate, but in terms of management, maybe it's not what do you expect. This is a new concept, new philosophy of a shipbuilders industry to try to attract again new ship owners, but they make a very bad mistake to put in the fleet other new ships coming. It's destroy what is already there. And if the market is increasing in the product tankers, is because in the last 4 years, everybody was afraid they don't make any order. And we need 4, 5 years time without orders to balance again. And this is now for other ships. Therefore, the philosophy is that if the entire industry, including the direct and indirect industry in the shipping, we need to reduce supply of tonnage. Otherwise, the entire world is died and very, very hard to recover. Thank you.
So perhaps we would like to hear a third view on this before we move ahead to some different topics. And there is here our friend Yannis Trifilis, who is, I think in his former job with his family fleet, Guernovicales, his grandfather founded fleet. They ordered, as far as I know, many vessels in Japan, and I think the Japanese vessels used to be quite sophisticated in design. Now he's in new capacity of managing director of Lydia Mar Shipping Company, and I would like very much to hear from you, Yannis, if you are a bit more pragmatic like Giuseppe, or you are aside Valeria. Obviously, one of the features of getting out of recession is innovation. So what the shipyards tend to do, tell that the vessel they have delivered just a few years or a few months ago are now obsolete, and we need to build new vessel. May obviously help the economy, but probably it would be unfair to the owners. And in the end, I don't know if you ever went close to any cancelling case, and your experience with the refund guarantees. That is also a problem that William has just touched because of the very limited time he tried to keep his speech.
Well, we can take advantage of the speaker saving us time, and we can waste it here amongst ourselves. I'll be quite diplomatic as a guest here and say that I would agree with both of the previous comments, and we are in the happy position to have one at least eco new building coming next year, but also a number of second-hand ships in the fleet, and where our next expansion over 2013 will probably be again a combination of these two types of vessels. And you go a bit case by case. Sometimes it's easier to get the financing on the new building, and it's better to do some of the asset speculation on the second hand, the way the arbitrage is progressing. Obviously, nobody would like us to go as an industry and over-order again, but in the end, these things can't be controlled. Everybody takes care of his own self-interest, and then in this chaotic system comes a result, and really neither the owner or his lawyer are at the center of this. We are all the servants of a world trade, and we are trying to speculate at which stage of the cycle is the appropriate one to increase our exposure in carrying goods. And I think that just as people got a bit maybe overexcited 4 or 5 years ago, I think people maybe are getting a bit too pessimistic today. I think in general, to try and renew the fleet at a more normalized pace is advantageous to everybody and the planet in the end, but any kind of manipulation, either whether it is to force scrap the old vessels or to stop ordering the new ones, never works. So I think everybody needs to be, people that have a bit too much on their plate, they need to be very patient. And people that have some reserves left, I think they should not be so pessimistic as the current atmosphere would indicate. As far as the cancellations go, Francesco, we've not done any cancelling. We did some renegotiating in the past. As long as it's amicable, it can be done. If it's not amicable, I would tend to agree with Mr. Bottiglieri that it's very difficult now to get out of shipbuilding contracts. And this experience I share with Mariella from the UK Defence Club, where we see a lot of cases where clearly the shipyard is going to delay beyond the limit. But if you try and pull the plug before that time has passed, you are not allowed to do it. So you just have to sit there, watch the accident to happen, and then to pick up the pieces. This is sometimes some of the problem with the way the law is put together. I hope it's been in some assistance. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Anyway, at the end we will have also a paper by Pietro Zanini of Varsila about performance optimization, which has got, I think, to do with eco ships. Anyway, I find very valuable that Valeria, who is, I think, mainly a tanker ship owner, is so much in favor of the environment and the eco-compatibility, because in some way the cargo is reduced, no, if we have savings. So I think I find this very good war to fight for the president of the young ship owners, you know, looking forward in the future. Now we move to another subject, and actually I asked the president of the Italian Maritime Law Association, Giorgio Berlingieri, to make a brief account of what the Italian Associazione di Diritto Marittimo and about is doing in preparation also to the works of the Comité Maritime International, of which we have got the honor president in the person of Francesco Berlingieri, and there will be a delegation, I think, I hope to join with many Italian lawyers also present here, led by Giorgio, who will take part to the next meeting of the committee, I think in Beijing, starting on the 14th of October. So, Giorgio, please, there is one topic in particular he will touch that is cross-border insolvency, and this is also a topic we will deal with, and also in order to prevent it and in order to cope with this, which, because unfortunately is a topic we have to deal with during this tough time for shipping, and we have many experiences.